episode 224, Decision-Making Mindset.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
No, actually here he is because he forgot to put his fucking phone on silent. So welcome to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Today we're going to talk about decision-making because decision-making makes you a happy camper in a large variety of ways. However, there are certain things that you may want to consider in the decision-making process. And, when you become decision happy, that actually leads to a more freed up state of mind where things, decisions are made on autopilot for a large variety of reasons. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today is a break from the construction site and everything is good. Everything is honky-dory. As you can hear in the background, the coffee machine is booting up. So there's no reason in the world to be unhappy today when you are caffeinated enough. That being said, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quick things in housekeeping. Number 1, views my own, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Do not reflect. You know the drill. Number 2, sharing is caring. If this or any other episode have helped you in any way, shape, or form, please make sure to share this podcast. I iterated. No, I didn't iterate. Did I iterate? I don't know. No, I didn't iterate. I elaborated at the beginning of the week that I got some feedback saying, hey, look, I came across your podcast through a friend who had shared some of your shit with me. And it's helped me significantly. So this help, I think, is crucial. And so I am anything between asking or begging, whatever suits your fancy. I don't know what's going on in your head. Share the content, please. All of you loyal listeners, all of you non-so-loyal listeners, please share it even more, right? So now that we have that covered, there are about 6 things in this decision-making mindset which play a role. And why did I choose this episode? First of all, number 1, I have been a reluctant decision maker for a large part of my early life. It took me a very long time. I went over a multitude of factors which I considered. I consulted dozens of friends if the decision was, of an impactful nature. I took other resources into consideration, only to find out weeks later that the decision that I was going to make was the same thing that I had in my gut. First of all, before these weeks had passed, and then and only then came interesting things with the work in the fire department. For over 20 years, which, put you in situations where you don't have a hell of a lot of time to make a decision. And that helped me rid myself of, that mindset, of procrastinating decisions until get-no. And that led to some interesting changes in my life. And a lot of that, I have been thinking about and, trying to put into words and into writing, but it never really fruition. And so we're going to make a podcast episode about it. What do you think of that? And so for those of you who are, struggling with making decisions, no matter how impactful or uneventful they may be, the quicker you can make them, the quicker you're over it. And there's a multitude of factors that makes that, set of consequences really, really, really interesting. So let's get started, right? Number one, to limit your options, right? That's what I mentioned in the early part of this episode. Is I took in several opinions. I took in from friends. What do you think? Should I or should I not? Which left you with dozens of opinions, because you ask 12 people and you get 13 opinions at least. And so, at the end of the day, it's about what you think is right. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. So limiting your options is really, the input that you expose yourself to be able to make that decision. However, it is also to limit the options that you have on the table to make that decision. So, should I don't know, take a new job? At the end of the day, it comes down to yes and no, right? So you take the things that speak for that, put them in the yes section. You take the things that speak against it, put it in the nay section, and then you kind of evaluate that very quickly, and then you have a yes or no. What are the consequences, right? That's essentially what you boil it down to, yes or no, in most cases. If you have a little bit more of a difficult situation, same thing applies. Imagine a funnel where you dump everything into, and then it gets sorted into yay, nay, or maybe, or all of these other good options that you may have at the end of the day. But it's about limiting your options. It's not, should I take a new job? Yes, no, maybe, or perhaps if the circumstances and if the stars are aligned. No, it's a yes or no at the end of the day. And that's what you have to weigh, the yays and nays into those baskets. And whichever one kind of supersedes, that's the decision you make. Next is to draw a line between good and bad choices. That's what I meant. Of course, you only want good choices. Anything that is remotely or can be remotely bad for you should be weeded out immediately, right? And you should draw a really thick line. In fact, draw a line, cut it out, and make an abyss there so that all of the bad choices fall into that. And it's about thinking of the unthinkable. That leads us back to, a burning house. What do you do first? Yes, you save the people. And oh, by the way, if you send your people in there to get that person who's stuck in the house out, and that something happens to them, that's a pretty shitty situation too. But those are the kind of decisions that you're confronted with when you're making really tough calls. And that's why, people who make these tough calls get paid quite well, and a lot of time, it's about money and the success of organizations, and those are the bestest paid people, and there's a lot of money involved and a lot of opinions, and so you have to make an informed decision that is not about gut, which leads us to the fact that you should always, at least in major parts, listen to your gut feeling. Now, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because I did a dedicated episode about your gut feeling, and you should be able to find it quite easily I don't remember the number, to be perfectly blunt, but it was one of the earlier episodes. So in the early in the late teens or early hundreds of this, look for the word gut. You should find it quite easily. The gut is insanely important. Why that is so, I'm going to reference you again to that episode. Next, think of your time as money. Now, that's a bit of a clusterfuck because a lot of you don't want to necessarily do that. That's a very Anglo-capitalistic view because time is a luxury. So thinking of time as money is kind of Americanized or Anglo-capitalized. Think of time as the only asset that you can't get back. Is it worth spending your time making this contemplating this decision even further, or should you just make it, right? And what are the consequences? And do you save time? That kind of ordeal. So take the money out of the equation, but always consider the aspect of time, because if you think weeks about something, you're not going to get anywhere, right? You're just going to think it apart and overthink it, and you're just going to kill the entire fun of the decision, really, for all I'm concerned. But, take time into consideration when you make a decision at all costs. Next, know that your decisiveness grows with each decision. So every decision you make, trains you in the process of decision making. Obviously, it just makes you better, makes you quicker, makes you sharper. So, put yourself in situations where you make decisions and then make these decisions awarely. And, this awareness that you add to it then makes your mind aware of the decision-making process that you have as well. And once you've optimized that, that's going to be when things get a lot easier. And you're going to start to notice that, the moment you make a decision and you've done it a gazillion times, it's just going to be, like that. Boom, your decision is made. And last but not least, remember that indecision kills. And what is meant by that? Well, if you're indecisive about everything, and you can't make up your fucking mind, that kills a lot of opportunities. It kills friendships. It even kills relationships. This thing is like, hey, what are we going to watch tonight, on Netflix? Is it going to be a horror movie or is it going to be a love story? Well, I don't know. And then you've got the other person making the decision, and that gets kind of boring if you don't have an opinion, which is born, out of the decision-making process we just went through. So, if you know someone that is, of the indecisive breed or, needs to improve their decision-making mindset, share this episode with them now. And until then, I wish you a good rest of your Thursday. And if you've already had your Thursday, have a good night. Leave your hands above the blanket. Peace out. We're going to be in touch tomorrow when it's Exercise Friday. And until then, don't do anything stupid I wouldn't do. See you later, folks.